Hey everyone, welcome to another Knoxcraft review. Today we have again our 2024 Ford Bronco Sport Badlands Edition. After driving around in the lower mainland in this snowmageddon we've had over the last week, it's not much snow but it's a little bit, we've had the opportunity to really test out this vehicle and see what it's capable of on icy and snowy conditions on the road. I wanted to use this video as an opportunity to kind of discuss some of those awesome off-road features, because this really tests out the best conditions for this thing, and also explain a little bit more of the mechanics behind the all-wheel drive system for the Ford Bronco Sport. So yeah, welcome to the review and hope you enjoy. As mentioned in the previous video, we have a series of modes: normal, sport, eco, slippery, mud and ruts, sand, and rock crawl. For the purposes of this video, we spent most of the day in slippery mode. One of the advantages of having the Badlands edition of the Bronco Sport is obviously the tires. Those Falcon Wild Peak AT3Ws really proved themselves today and during the week in the snow. There were a few times when the power delivery came in handy this week. When the snow first arrived, the conditions proved challenging with the abundance of leftover snow and ice. I remember the specific time where I had to climb a section of the road that was pure ice. This Bronco didn't even slip as if it had Velcro shoes. Of course, with every great review video, we still have to discuss the shortcomings. And here we have Exhibit A. While the Bronco does have great traction, it does lack in the ground clearance department. We also use this as an opportunity to learn some new things about recoveries. So, we really tested this thing out. I don't know if you guys can kind of see here, but yeah. We're really stuck today. So one thing I will tell you is be very careful with how you pull these things out. The recovery hooks only seem to be able to pull straight on, so you don't want to end up having a bent recovery hook like we do, so yeah. It wasn't until we removed the hook that it made sense, having a long rod for axial loading and a small flange to hold it on. These hooks are not designed for angular recovery like the one we just attempted.
Dedicate this video to Ethan and his little trusty shovel.
The little shovel. Oh my god. This is why you be careful, kids. Oof. Our trusty shovel. In the distance, you can see our knight in shining armor. Oh, looks good from here. Where are you going? He forgot the entrance strategy. It's gonna be a very long day. Knight in shining armor. which is sad because it's my own truck. Just gonna turn into a Ford commercial here pretty quick.
As the mud seemed to suck the Bronco in, we made an attempt to do a rear recovery. I would like to recommend for any Bronco or future Bronco Sport owners that do any wheeling to make sure that you carry a shackle recovery system. This will allow you to have both a front and rear option for a tug. As we did make it out alive, it's time for a victory lap. Alright, so just dissecting what kind of went wrong there, I wanted to talk about, where the car was at and where we had some issues. I do want to put a disclaimer there that the Bronco Sport did not actually fail because of the traction. It was clearly just a ground clearance issue. If it was just a little bit taller, we probably would have had no issues getting through that section of ice. The tires themselves, as you can see in the earlier videos, made it through no problem with the deep snow, so that wasn't the bigger issue. But that's something to keep in mind if you're looking for an off-roader to go adventuring with, to make sure that you have the height. That is one of the aspects. That's one of the limitations with the Bronco versus the full size, but keep in mind, I mean, we purchased it just for kind of daily driving. Another vulnerability that this producing this video showed us was the limitations of pulling and recovery, and the importance of understanding your vehicle before you do try to recover it. It's good to know, what those limitations are. This here is the tow hook for Bronco Sport. This is the one that's damaged. And the new one, which we just put in, has been replaced. So it's kind of important because if you look at this rod, the way that's set up, is meant to be pulled axially. This little flange, as flimsy as it is not expected to be pulled on an angle like this one was. So where we found the failure with our particular vehicle, this flange, I don't know if you can really see it very well, but it is quite bent in comparison to the new one that we picked up. It also, where it mounts, there's only just a little bit of sheet metal there. So looking at it now, it was definitely a guarantee that it could not be pulled on an angle like we thought. So just a bit of a PSA, when you're trying to recover a vehicle, make sure you spend a bit of time looking at how these are mounted and making sure that you know how to pull them, because when you are in that situation, you don't want to put some damage to your brand new vehicle. And don't just go off of the way that the shape of the hook is, because I mean, from here it looks like you can load it here, load it here, load it here, and load it here where it's supposed to. The actual design of it is meant to pull straight on and straight on only. Had we had a snatch block or changed the angles of which we were pulling and had, a blocked vehicle or a weight vehicle just to get those angles, probably would have made a bit of a difference. But when we did do the rear recovery, it had no problem. So, and that was again because we were pulling straight on. So just keep in mind moving forward. Now, this is good for your off-roading, and this is just a good rule of thumb if you're going to be taking these things off-road, or any vehicle for that matter. So talking briefly about the all-wheel drive system. Now, when we did the initial review video, we weren't necessarily sure how exactly the off-road system worked. So I did want to spend a little bit of time to just, understand the mechanics behind it. I'm coming from a bit of background experience, having multiple off-road vehicles. There's a lot of different options out there, but with the new technology having the selectable modes, we wanted to understand, is this just a transmission control module that does that, and it changes the dynamics of the engine, the transmission, and how it shifts and how it delivers power? Or does it actually change the dynamics of the drivetrain? And that was something we were really interested to see with this one. And when we did a bit of research, it was quite clear that, you know, Ford has actually put a lot of effort and time into this design for these Bronco Sports. It's weird because, you know, you have your traditional solid axle platforms, or, you know, your front differential and your rear differential in the transfer case. It was weird to see how exactly the Ford was built. So I was able to pull up the schematics and understand a little bit better how these things work, which was quite interesting. So first off, we have the front of the vehicle. Now this is this typical SUV unibody design where it's front wheel drive bias. You have your engine, your transverse mounted transmission, and usually when you have that, you have a front differential that is almost like a direct drive to that transmission. So the PTO has an opportunity with this design to change the power delivery from that front differential to that rear drive shaft, and then to ultimately the rear axles. Now that's not only the cool part about this design. The other part is the fact that Dana, and yes, all of you 4x4 people out there probably recognize this name, but Dana is the one responsible for the rear design of the differential. This is pretty cool. So instead of having an independent, you know, small differential in the rear, a couple CV axles going to your wheels, it does have that, but the difference is in the differential itself. Now Ford has used these differential designs with the Escape, and what they've described it as is a single clutch system, so that it can change the power delivery from the drive shaft to that rear axle, and so that it's variable in a way that, you know, allows it to be fuel efficient when you're in eco mode, or having more power in sport mode, or in the different off-road modes. You have different traction options, which changes the power delivery to that CV axles. What Ford wanted to do with Dana was go for a different design, something that screams off-road capability, while also keeping in mind that it's still going to be a unibody market off of a similar platform to the Escapes and to some of the Ford's other unibody smaller crossover SUVs. But at the same time, they didn't want to give up the capabilities of these things, which is pretty cool. So instead of having a single clutch system like they did for the drive shaft, they actually introduced a second clutch. They call them dual clutch rear ends. So how does a dual clutch rear end actually function? You have one clutch that controls your input, which is from the drive shaft that goes from the front of the vehicle to the rear. And then you have another one that controls CV. This is really important for traction control, because in the case of a locker, where you can bridge the two axles together, where you can get power delivery to both wheels, if one of your wheels is spinning in the air or in mud while your other wheel has traction, an open differential will not transfer that to the one that has traction from the one that doesn't have traction. But introducing this clutch allows you to gain traction, and for the vehicle itself to recognize that, you know, this one has no resistance but this one does. We're going to put power to the resistance because we think that that's where we have the grip. And that's really cool, because what it's essentially doing is it's like a smart locker. So this is kind of playing on the whole idea that, you know, these vehicles are kind of for everybody, and they allow, you know, inexperienced off-roaders to understand how to off-road and also have the confidence to do it without knowing everything about their vehicle, which is really good on Ford for letting people come into the market and letting people experience this. Now, the other cool thing about this vehicle, though, is that for the traditionalists, the people who like the old school designs, there still is a rear locker for this vehicle, and that part's really cool. So I was kind of excited to hear about that, finding this research. So I definitely wanted to do a video to kind of touch base about this. It was a cool find, and I think moving forward, some of our reviews, I'd really like to talk about the different engineering characteristics of some of the advancements in technology that we have. We probably will still continue to do like regular review videos, but I also kind of want to use this platform as an opportunity to, you know, talk about some of those advancements. If any of you have any more vehicles you'd like to for me to review, and you know, happy to do that, please leave your recommendations down in the comments. And if you already haven't, please like and subscribe my videos, and so I can continue to do this. Enjoy it, and hopefully, you know, 2025 you might end up seeing more of me. So stick around, we should have some cool videos as we go along here, and thanks for watching. See you soon.